right, everybody. Welcome back to the Rob Review. I'm your friend in success here, Robert Morris. Thank you for tuning in. Really like this new set. I got to thank Lee for coming in. Him and I re-record these live so that I don't have to do a whole lot of editing and post, which was keeping me from putting out regular content last year. I just had too much going on. But now that Lee's helping me and we're doing this with these brand new set, we're able to really, you're going to see a whole lot more regular programming being released, which is good because it pushes me to dig deeper into the offer and just give you my best stuff that I can give you. I was talking to some guy recently who has a podcast, and he was talking about how you got to give your best stuff away for free. And I thought, his business is selling from his podcast. I don't know that I'm ever going to turn this into a business, but that mindset made a lot of sense, because even if I give it away on this show, there's still a whole lot of, it's wild when you start teaching stuff and you step into the shoes of a teacher. Before a long time, I went through this whole phase of feeling like, oh man, I'm not good enough to teach. Even though I do this regularly, I make money from the stock market, I'm not good enough to teach. And I'm sure that what people that actually taught me felt like. And so then I realized by talking to people and disseminating this information that, one, this makes me better at what I do. When you go and teach people, you try it. Try it for yourself. Something that you're really, really good at. Give the information to somebody. What it does is, I promise you, it makes you better at it. Because in order to teach it, you have to have a whole nother way of looking at it. And secondly, it pushes you to become the person that can disseminate that information. And so you just grow from it. I benefit from this more than you do, believe it or not. And so we're talking about dividends, $10,000 in dividend income. This is part 3. We've gone through how to look at chart for long-term purchases. We've gone through the market, how it moves different in each month of the year, and not just how it moves, but how earnings can be a great place to just churn profit. And we've talked a little bit about how you can benefit from one move off of a stock and have 3 or 4 different streams of money coming off of that. We're going to talk about that more in depth as we get into the year. But I got to set the I hope this is resonating with you. I hope that the last episode where we talked about covered call and how it essentially gives you a license to have a money tree. Matter of fact, the book that I learned covered calls out of, the cover of it was a guy watering a money tree. And I bought the book because I saw that, and I've always been taught, Robbie, money doesn't grow on trees, right? You heard. I'm not saying that you can go grow a money tree, right? But in a way, the stock market can be like a money tree. I am amazed at how many different ways there are to produce money from one stock that I own. And even from stocks I don't own. And, that's trading. But covered calls, that's what we talked about. And we got more methods to get into with covered calls. So let's get going. All right, we're going to go pull up slide 2. This is covered calls, what I call the falling forward method. Why are you falling forward? Because how many people have you talked to where when the stock market is declining, this is part of where I came up with the idea for talking about the whole dividend thing in the first place. I was getting my hair cut, and the lady that was cutting my hair, she was talking to me. She says, you do the stock market. Tell me, when is it going to stop declining? Because we were going through a period where it had declined basically from the beginning of the summer all the way through, steadily, at that point in time. And a lot of people, unfortunately, if you make 100% stock market over X amount of years, if the decline takes away 50% of that, you have to make 100% more to gain back to zero. So when you have that happen to you and you have no weapons in your arsenal, no extra tools in your tool belt to stop yourself, it hurts. And so how many of you know people that don't like it when the stock market goes? It doesn't bother me. And here's why. Falling forward to profit. When a stock declines, what's the first thing I do? I make sure I know that it's happening. I'm prepared for it. I don't hit everyone. But let's talk about, Cat Tractor here for a second. This is a great example stock. The falling forward method kind of comes into play with, I just love making money when the stock market goes down. If you don't want to use put, here's how you can profit from a decline. Any stock during a decline, you're selling the calls, the covered call. You're covered because you own the stock. And you're selling it $5 to $10 above the current stock price. That's what I look at. Now again, do this at your own risk. Study this before you start going out and doing it, because the risk of you getting called out is there. But let me just tell you guys, between you and me, I've done this for 10 years of my life, off and on. But for about 8 years now, I've been regularly trading, and I've done covered calls regularly, 6, 12, more times a year. And I have never been called out once. Now, watch me do it the next time and it happened. Here's how I'll talk about how you can probably make yourself get called out by doing it wrong in a minute. But, all right, the falling forward formula. I don't really care about the name. The point is the stock's decline, okay? Let's say that Cat Tractor is at $279 and you own 300 shares. So you can sell 3 contracts of covered calls, and you sell the 285 strike. And today, it would have paid you a bid of $745 to sell out in February. $745 a share now. That's times 300 shares. That's what? I think I got it down. Yeah. $2,235. So $2,200. You get that right now, and the stock starts to decline. It keeps going. It keeps going. You have the stock. You own it. You're watching it decline, but you have made money off of those covered calls. Now, you have to, in my opinion, you should buy it back later. But as the stock declines, that covered call costs you less and less and less back. Let's say you buy it back for $50. That's about as low as I've ever bought one back for. Sometimes I've had them, 50 cents. You're paying them back, $1, $1.50. So you're giving them back $1.50 of the $2,200 that you were given. I would do that every day, all day, no matter what. But it is just there. It's just there. And why not? Because the stock's going to decline anyway. And unless you're going to buy a put, you're not going to benefit from the decline. You're going to lose. So, and now here's where it gets interesting. Let's say you could do that 12 times a year on different stocks. Average profit is $2,000. That's $12,000 that you're going to put in your pocket that you didn't already have. And again, it's another way to stack it aside. And later on in the year, you're going to own $12,000 more of that stock than you did before if you watch for an entry point after a major decline and buy more on the way in. Extra shares, extra shares, extra shares. And that's how you stack up over years and years and years. Now, let's say you get called out. That's where, in this situation, you probably wouldn't want to be. But personally, it doesn't bother me because here's why. If I get called out of my Cat Tractor at $285, I probably bought it for a lot less than that. Let's say I bought it at $200. Okay. I'm getting the $85 a share for my Cat Tractor. at my 300 shares, but let's say 100 shares for easy math, right? $8,500. Plus, I'm getting the money I got from the covered call in the first place. And all I'm going to have to do is wait for cat tractor to decline again, and I'll buy it back. And I'll buy more than I had last. That's losing in this. Now, how do you really lose doing this? This is how. Let's say you do something really dumb like I did one time. And this was on a stock back when Netflix was really popular. And I think I had Netflix at like 260. And the stock was getting ready to decline. And I believe, if I'm correct, I sold like a ridiculously high, like $300 a share covered call. I got paid an okay amount of money. But then what happened was the stock came out with some good news. I was wrong about the chart reading. The stock bounced up above 300, and immediately when it went above 300, I got called out. And so here's where I am wrong about what I said earlier. But what happened was I got paid really, really well for those shares that I had bought way back at like 200. And so I got $100 per share profit. And then I proceeded to laugh all the way to the bank. Now, I never bought back my Netflix because I was trading at that time. I didn't want to own it for a long period of time. So I'll take that back. I have been called out once since I started this project. But I did it wrong. I sold way too far out in time, and I read the chart wrong. So there you go. All right. The next method here is just the basic covered calls, guys. What everybody does standard with covered calls. The standard covered call method. Churn and burn, baby. Look at all that. I put all that money up there because in real terms, you can really stack the cat when you're doing the stop. And so this is on a ride. You got your cat tractor, and you've got it at 200, and it's now at 275. Okay? He sets up another ride immediately. If you're really knowledgeable, you buy some calls. Now notice I said buy there, not sell. You buy some calls to benefit from the ride. That stock rises until 285 a share, and then it starts to teeter off. Okay? You sell your calls for that $10 a share profit, and then you take the money and you set it aside. Now, since you own the stock, you can also then sell covered calls right there. Let's say if it's at 285, you sell the 280. Now, you sell the 280, you think you're going to immediately get called out. Not necessarily. While it's at 285, you have the 280 strike, okay? You have the right to buy cat track at 280, and it's at 285. Now, you could get called out when the stock gets closer to expiration, but here's what you're going to do. You're going to let the stock keep rising, and you're going to let it expire, and you're going to keep that money in your pocket free and clear. I've done that multiple times, and I mean, it's a good, simple strategy to use, and it comes straight out of covered call book everywhere, all right? The other way that you can do that, well, is if you don't want to ever worry about having to sell covered calls on a rise, you just always do it on a decline. I mean, that's a pretty simple mathematical formula that works every single time, folks. And the really cool thing I think, about this is when you start to familiarize yourself with doing it. No longer do you stomp up and down and throw things or have mood swings based upon how the market is doing. You're not glued to your TV set watching CNBC or yelling at the president for what they did. Because here's the real nitty gritty of it. Is the stock market doesn't really care. I mean, there are some real things that happen in our life where it's going to affect the stock market majorly. You know, major terrorist attack, 9/11 being an example. We go to war, major thing. But for the most part, the stock market does the same thing, day in, day out, with very little variation all the time. The last time that I paid attention to customer price index report or the job numbers report was like, I was in my teens. I used to write that stuff down every time one came out to see what's the market going to do? What is the market going to do? You hear people on CNBC, what is the market going to do? All right? Let's go back to that first slide, please. The other first, the very first. I don't know what the market's going to do, but I'm going to think like the CEO. And the CEO is going to stay calm. They're going to collect stuff. And they're going to plan and take action. Well, the people on CNBC are screaming their heads off, saying, oh man, the CPI was this, the jobs report was this. And I would write this stuff down. And I would try to trade with it. And for a while, I thought, okay, it did this, it did that. Then I started to realize, rarely does it ever really do anything off of that stuff. Now, some stock-specific stuff, FOMC meetings are important, but you don't necessarily need to know exactly when, what, and how after an FOMC meeting. Most of the time, they're either going to raise the interest rate, or they're going to lower the interest rate, or they're going to keep them the same. I mean, actually all the time. That's all they're ever going to do. Now, you can basically know, according to how the economics of the world is moving in the U.S., what they're going to do because they got the lever and they need to keep steady. So knowing that, you kind of can go ahead and plan. So the NBC, all that stress, worrying about this and that and the third, to me, it just lifts off your shoulder. And I used to subscribe to CNBC to watch it at work. I used to watch it at home. I used to pay attention to everything that came out of these people's mouth. I used to watch Jim Cramer every night. The guy with the buttons and the crazy show where he's yelling at people. Actually, a friend of mine called in that show one time and got some advice that felt kind of. Point is, I used to watch all that. I used to be consumed with knowing that now. And I make more money now. And I don't pay attention to any of it. I don't watch NBC. I don't have a subscription to their stuff. I don't read the Wall Street Journal. And I trade the stock market regularly, doing calls, covered calls, covered put, uncovered put, which are shortened, uncovered calls. I mean, all that stuff is tools in my tool belt. Index trade, another way to benefit, earnings trade, stock split. All of it, I do. And once I realized that this stuff was out there, I didn't care about which way the market was moving anymore. I didn't care about if my individual stock was tanking. You can't stop it anyway, so why not just profit from it and then deal with the aftermath later? What you can benefit from is a CEO mindset, peace of mind. That's what this is all about anyway. What is money for except to buy you peace of mind? It can buy you a lot of other stuff, and some people might even argue it can buy you happiness. Yeah, it can definitely buy you favor. But all that stuff is nonsense if you don't first have peace of mind. And if you're sitting there and you're trying to benefit from the stock market and you're sweating bullets and you're losing sleep, it's not really benefit. Harmon. I definitely have the story of where I used to watch my money like Paul. And I used to think and worry. Heck, I remember trying to trade on my honeymoon, worrying about having charts paid for on my honeymoon. How stupid. I mean, honest. Right? I know you're sitting there thinking you would never do that. Perhaps you are smarter than me. But I was all wrapped up. Now, no. I study every day. I look at the market daily. I'm up to what goes on. But I don't stress. I don't even trade. I used to trade hundreds of some. I trade 20 now, including indexes. 20 symbols. I know them like the back of my hand. I know exactly what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. And now the market doesn't always agree with me. Sometimes I have a plan and the market goes over here. But like CEO, I evaluate and I retake my mindset and my money, and I do what the market tells me it's going to do, because the market is, it is. In this situation, the stock market is the God, and you just do what it tells you to do. And I know that that's probably not the best now. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you cannot control the market. You can plan. You can try to execute the plan. But if you execute the plan just like you want to execute it without consulting the charts and what the market says it wants to do, you deserve to lose your money. Probably because somebody's going to take it that's more prepared, and that prepared in a way that they were able to pivot with another tool in their tool belt when the market did something they didn't expect. I didn't plan to say any of that, but maybe somebody out there really needed to hear that. Not everything I talk about on this show, your financial advisor is going to. Not everything I talk about on this show is for everybody to do. But if you watch long enough, you're going to pick up a couple of tools that you're going to be able to be better off from. So talking about dividends, to wrap it all up, how are you going to get to having that kind of amount of money in the stock market where you can get paid 10 grand every time there's a dividend check? If you try to save your way to that, unless you make a lot of money, it is going to be a long, long, long haul. But if you pick out the stock that you want to own, and you know that the stock, global, it's optimal, it's going to be around for 5, 10, 20 years. Intelligent, smart Southern intelligence tells you it's going to do that. You might be wrong about your time frame, but you're not going to be so far off you can't stack the money by using some of the strategies we talked about and go from 100, 200 to 300 and eventually 1,000. Then once you get to about 1,000 shares, it really starts to compound. And then before you know it, you're going to have enough, and that dividend check's going to come in. And by that time, you might not even need it. But you're going to have done it in a shorter time frame than somebody that really tried to save their pennies and buy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts somewhere. I definitely did that. But let's say you wanted to own Cat Tractor. 100 shares of Cat Tractor is going to cost you $2,900, right? You might not have 29. Okay? But what you can do is buy a call the next time Cat Tractor gets set up to go up. Next time it's going down, you can buy a put. Profit, 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 profit. Stack it away. Turn $500, $600, $1,000 into $3,000 or $4,000. And you haven't taken a single dollar away from your income, except start. Now, it might have taken you a year or two, but you're able to buy your first 100 shares, first 200. And now, not only are you still doing this, but you're getting that dividend check, and you're stocking it away. Every year you're buying more shares. And now, every time it declines, you can protect it. Every time it rises, you can cash a check from it. And you're stacking, stacking, stacking. And those stacks, they get rather large. That's all I got for y'all tonight. I really hope you benefited from this. Remember, I'm your friend in success. I'm here for you. If you want to talk more, we can. This is not for you to do without consulting somebody if you've never done anything in the stock market. But this is a show where I want to hopefully help you who want to know and are willing to take the risk how to take into your own hands your financial future. Make it happen. Make it. See you on the next.
The views and opinions expressed in this program or any other Rob Review program are not to be considered financial advice, and all these strategies have their own inherent risk. If you act on information given in this show, you are doing so at your own financial risk. Map. Productions does not take part in your positive or negative financial results. That is why I recommend you consult your financial advisor before acting on any of these tips. What worked for Robbie may not work for you exactly as shown in the show.